If you go like this around me, that would be great. Maybe something right here. So not blocking my light.
Okay.
So like here, and then zooming in on the details. Not zoom, like.
Close. Okay.
Not with your finger, like physically.
All right.
Hi there, my name is Emma and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made this gorgeous fairy costume. I had someone on my TikTok comment asking for it and I love how it turned out. I felt like such a beautiful, perfect princess in it. It was a lot of fun to make and I don't think it was that difficult. Hopefully you find this tutorial helpful, informative, and let me know if you have any other costumes you want to see and don't forget to subscribe. The first thing I did was the wings. I used 2 pieces of poster board for the wings. I just peeled off the stickers and freehand sketched them out. I felt comfortable doing this because I do a lot of butterflies and moths, so I didn't mind coming up with the shapes as I go, but definitely feel free to look up inspiration before you start sketching. And then I traced everything out with Sharpie to make it a little bit easier to see because I did have so many sketch lines. It just made it way easier to see when I went in with my X-acto knife, and you can tell I'm not cutting directly on the line. I need to leave a little bit of thickness in between those, and the thicker the line, the more stable that wing is going to be. So you want to make sure you kind of freehand leave a little bit of space in between those lines, and you're pressing really, really hard as you cut down. You're then going to flip your poster board over and you're going to make sure that everything is cut all the way through. This step is super important because there's a film on the outside of the poster board that can really tear if you don't do this step. So just use your X-acto knife, pop them all out, and you want to do the insides before you cut out the outside because that's going to make it a little bit more stable for you. Some of those curves were kind of tricky, but just take your time, and once that's done, you're going to trace that second one. This is going to be so much easier. If you want to end up going and doing a stencil first, that might make your life easier. I just felt comfortable freehanding it, but as you can tell, now you're actually going to cut on the lines, and this side was so much easier, and I think it turned out really great. This is how it looked before I went in with some spray paint. I used Rust-Oleum metallic gold, and I just went in for a few coats on both sides. I then grabbed some acetate. I actually get this from the canvas packs I buy at Michael's, but you can just look up acetate and get some sheets of that. This isn't the only way to do this. You can use a shiny material, but I was trying to use what I had, so I just cut it out. And I used some E6000 and glued it right on and smoothed it out, and you're going to do that on all 4 wings. On mine, you can kind of see the drops where I put the glue, so if that bothers you, you can use spray adhesive, but it doesn't really bother me. It's not super noticeable, and it's the back anyway, so I don't really mind it, but if it bothers you, you can obviously come up with an alternative. I then took some clear acrylic paint and a little bit of white acrylic paint, and I used that to smooth over that back side. You're going to want to make sure you are painting kind of with the grain of the wing, if that makes sense. And then I took a wet paper towel, wrapped it around my finger, and I smoothed over those veins to kind of re-show where that gold was. This just makes it look a little bit cleaner. This step isn't necessary, but again, these are the backs of your wings, so people will be seeing them. Now, getting these wings to stick together was by far the hardest part of this whole thing. Because they were a little bit flimsy, and all the footage you're seeing here I ended up redoing, but what you're going to want to do is take a few pieces of wire, wrap them together, and then I'm gluing them kind of low here, but I ended up redoing it, and I made them go all the way up the side of the wing, if you can see that. So it's a U shape, and I glued little bits of glue all the way up the sides, and then I also did a little bit in the corners for some extra stabilization. So that obviously looks super ugly, which is where some fake flowers go in. I just glued it to the ugly parts. This is not perfect, and if you want to make it look better, that's totally fine. There are probably a million other ways I could have done these wings, but I just wanted to use supplies that I already had. This was accessible to me, and I hope you find it was accessible to you as well. The next thing I did was make the crown, which was by far my favorite part. You can get really creative with this. You don't have to follow step by step everything I did. I took a piece of wire that's the size of my head, and I made a little indent in the middle, a little V shape where my gemstone is going to go, as you can see right there. And then I took the wire and wrapped it around itself in the back. I ended up covering this up, so it's not super important. I used some clear polymer clay to roll a circle, which is going to be my gemstone eventually. And then I took this gold polymer clay and rolled it out super, super thin. And I used it to wrap it around the entire base of my crown. I started in the V and I just wrap the whole thing around. This was kind of a tedious step, but it is pretty satisfying. At the beginning, I just did the front, but I did end up going around the whole way of the crown, so all of the funky wires in the back end up being covered up. I took some more of that gold clay and I surrounded my gemstone, shoved that on, and then I added some little details. You can really get creative here. You don't have to follow what I did. I added some circles and then I went back and added some detailing with my X-acto knife, but feel free again to get creative and kind of do whatever makes you happy. In order to make the gemstone pop out more, I used this chrome powder from Etsy. I just smoothed it over the top. It was kind of chunky at first, but we got there. Then I used that same translucent clay, made some teardrop shapes, and I covered it with that same iridescent powder. I then took these little hook eye things, shoved it in the top, and just baked it as is. I baked the crown and the teardrops in the oven at 275 degrees for 30 minutes, just as is. I had no problems with the metal. This was actually my first time baking something with metal. Well, my second time. The first time I did have problems. This is my first time successfully baking something with the metal. I think the first time I did it, I had the temperature wrong, but everything turned out fine. It hardened really well, and then I was able to paint it a little bit more. After everything cooled, I took more of that gold metallic spray paint, and this is my favorite tip ever. You can actually just use it kind of like regular paint. You have to work quickly, but I just brushed it all over the gold parts, and thankfully I didn't have to completely cover it. It just gave it this extra shine, and now they match the wings. I then cut up some gold chain and used some jump rings to attach it to the front. I did 2 long pieces in the front, just using those jump rings and then tightening them with some pliers. And then I took both of them and a giant jump ring and attached them both to the same jump ring in the back so they meet at the same spot. Now, as you're doing this, I recommend trying on your crown. I kept putting it on and making sure all of the lengths were correct. That's how I determined the length of the chain, is I just kind of held it up to my head to see how it looked. I had a mirror on standby, so I kept taking it on and off and holding up the chains just so there was nothing weird going on with my ears poking out or anything like that. I then cut 2 more chains and did the same thing, except I didn't attach them all the way to the front nor all the way to the back. So this one was a little bit shorter and it didn't go all the way across. I took the dewdrops I made earlier and added jump rings and attached them to the chains on my head because it was a little bit easier to visualize. I did 5 on each side and kind of planned them out, and I love how they turned out. I ended up getting a dress at Goodwill for $11. They had a ton of options, and actually as I was walking out, I saw a floor-length stunning gown for $3 more than what I got, but I had already paid, so I really like this one. It is super cute, flowy, short, kind of playful. It is a little big on me, so I just kind of pin the sides in, and that'll be fine for Halloween. I also thought it could be really cute if you do have a shorter dress to make some extra of those teardrops with the little eyes coming out of them and just tack them to the bottom of the dress so you could have little teardrop designs kind of flowing at the bottom of the dress, and I think it would be a really cute way to tie in the headpiece and the dress together. As far as my makeup goes, I added a ton of blush on my cheeks and my nose. I also wanted to do a faux freckle look, so I took an eyeliner pencil and just tapped it all over my cheekbones and my nose. My sister actually gave me this eyeshadow a while ago, and it happened to be the perfect color and kind of matched the gemstone perfectly, so I put that on the inner corner of my eyes, and on the very inner corner I added this white highlight. And underneath my eyes, I added more of a tan color. And on the outside, I added a dark shiny color. But all of these are super, super glittery. And then I put some highlight on my nose, on my lip, and on my cheekbone. I winged out my liner a little more than I normally would, and then added some in my inner corners. And then I went in with some false lashes, which are totally optional. These are like the most extreme ones that I have. And then probably this is my favorite product I've ever owned. It's some tinted chapstick and it looks amazing. Then I took these. They're actually for nail art. My mom gave them to me. They're just little stars and I put some around my eyes. And then I separated 2 pieces in the front of my hair and put the rest of my hair behind my ears. I kind of already have pointy elf ears. At least my boyfriend always tells me that. So I just wanted to highlight my ears. And then I added the headpiece. Oh my gosh, I absolutely love how this look turned out. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to ask any questions if you have them in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow. I also am on TikTok. That is where I post the most. I'm also on Instagram and I'm posting on stories every single day. So make sure to like, follow, and let me know if you have any other costumes you want to see. Thank you so much. Happy making.